Hi, I'm Margie Nichols. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Personal Growth. I'm a psychologist and a sex therapist.
And I'm Courtney Zender. I'm the social media coordinator at IPG. I'm updating the Facebook and the Twitter and making videos like this with Margie. I do a lot of our web content.
Okay, so this video is about BDSM or kinky sex, and the reason why we're doing it, we were inspired, so to speak, by the popularity of the trilogy 50 Shades of Grey. For the most part, we think that it's positive, that 50 Shades of Grey is a positive thing. It's bringing to the public's attention the fact that women like sex, women are erotic, women like to read erotica, and women like kinky sex, because those books have been on the bestseller list for a long time. Unfortunately, 50 Shades of Grey also perpetuates some not so great stereotypes about kinky sex. So we're going to tell you in this video what it is and what it isn't.
So first, BDSM, sort of what does it stand for, right? It's an internet-generated acronym that stands for bondage and discipline, domination and submission, and sadism and masochism. So you sort of smush all those together and you get BDSM, and that's what people mean when they are using that acronym.
Great. So let's talk about what it's not. The first thing it's not is it's not uncommon. 15 to 20% of people that we know of that have been surveyed practice BDSM, which is higher than the percentage of people that identify as gay or lesbian. So it's a pretty popular sexual activity. The most popular activities are bondage, tying up, getting tied up, or tying somebody up, and spanking. The reason that you don't realize that 15 to 20% of your neighbors and maybe yourself are practicing BDSM is that most people who do kinky sex are not doing it in clubs or at organizations. They're not professional dominatrixes. They're doing it behind closed doors with their partner, and they're not telling anybody about it.
Right.
The second thing that BDSM isn't is it's not sick. It is not the result of childhood abuse, which unfortunately is one of the worst stereotypes that's perpetrated in the books 50 Shades of Grey. And people who are into kink are not any more likely to have mental disturbances or emotional disorders than people who are not into kink.
Next thing it's not a bunch of sex addicts. So just because someone's interested in BDSM, in kink, does not mean they have an addiction to sex, that they have an unhealthy relationship to sex, a problem with sex. There's no research to show that there's any numerical difference in the amount of people that have sex addiction in the BDSM community versus what people in the BDSM community call those who have like vanilla sex, or what we call like regular penetrative or oral sex. There's no reason to believe that because somebody's interested in BDSM that they're a sex addict. Another thing BDSM is not, it's not just BDSM. So just because somebody is interested in kinky sex doesn't mean that's all they're interested in. People who are interested in BDSM are interested in a wide range of sex acts, usually a much more varied range than their vanilla counterparts. And the other part of that puzzle is that people who are interested in BDSM are also interested in vanilla sex. So they engage in the kind of sex that their vanilla counterparts engage in. It's not all kink all the time. It's really a wide range of things that people in this community are interested in.
Right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about that is not true of BDSM is people in the kink community are not there because they're aggressive, violent, or angry, and they're not there because they are self-hating people who like to be beaten up and like to be abused. These are consensual sex acts. It's a sort of sexual games that people play with each other that are agreed to ahead of time by both partners, fully consensual, not enacting out of violence or anger in any way.
Right. So what is BDSM then if it's not all these things, right? The first thing is that it is about sort of a power exchange or a real power dynamic, often manifesting itself in role play. So one person, for instance, will sort of give over control or give over power, and the other person will take that control or take that power in the particular role play. And often these role plays sort of mimic power dynamics in society. So you'll have someone playing the cop and the other person playing the arrested criminal.
Right. And if you still had any idea that the person who's the bottom or the sub is somehow a victim, consider this. Most people want to be subs. Most people want to be in the bottom position because that's where all the attention is focused. That's why Anna loves being in that situation with Christian Grey, because she's completely the center of attention.
People love attention.
Absolutely, we all do. So BDSM is also sometimes about pain in quotes. And what I mean by that is it's about good pain, not bad pain. So you know what good pain is if you've ever given a hickey or gotten a hickey and enjoyed it. You also know what good pain is if you like to exercise. And because you know that when you exercise, you can, sometimes your muscles might be in pain, it might be strenuous, it might be difficult, and yet it's somehow a good pain, and afterwards you have all those endorphins released and you feel high and you feel terrific. That's the kind of pain we're talking about with kinky sex. As a matter of fact, the pain and pleasure centers of the brain are in the same spot. It's all a matter of context. Dentist's office, bad pain. Bedroom, good pain. Right.
Related to the idea of good pain is also the idea of good fear, or what we'll call safe fear. So that's what BDSM allows people to play with, is this idea of safe fear. So I'll put it in sort of another non-sexual context, like the exercise example. Think of a roller coaster. People love roller coasters. I love roller coasters. So you get in the roller coaster and you're scared. Like, you're really sort of terrified. Even while you're riding it, you're a little terrified. But you also know you're not going to fall out. You know that you're safe in the roller coaster. And that's sort of what BDSM allows people to play around with, is that you've agreed to these certain sex acts, you've set your boundaries, you trust this person, and you know at the end of the day that they're not going to cross those lines. They're not going to make you feel bad pain. So it's this safe way to experience sort of exhilarating fear.
Yeah. Right.
Horror movies, we love this stuff.
We don't know why, but human beings seem to like things like horror movies and roller coasters, or a lot of us do anyway. We just seem to like to play with kind of being on that edge of something that's a little scary, and yet it's totally safe.
Yeah.
So another thing that BDSM is about is it's about intensity, and it's about playing with sensation, right? So an ice cube might not be so much fun to have on your skin, but if you're really intensely passionate, that might be a pretty interesting experience to have an ice cube, to feel an ice cube on your skin. And it's something that makes the sexual experience very intense. A lot of the kind of regular sex that people practice is unfortunately way too goal-oriented. It's kind of like, get to that orgasm as quickly as you can. BDSM is like the opposite. It's about building intensity, building arousal, drawing out the sexual experience to take more time, more pleasure, more involvement. People experience these as peak experiences. They experience them as tremendously intimate sexual experiences, and often they experience them as spiritual experiences.
So bottom line, why do we make this video? Sort of for two reasons, actually. The first is a lot of what we talked about in the what it's not section. We really want to debunk a lot of the negative myths surrounding BDSM and the people who practice it, and make sure that people aren't walking around thinking that the members of the BDSM community are sick, dangerous, vile people. That's a really dangerous stereotype, and I think it's really important to challenge that stereotype and to show through research and statistics that these things are very untrue about the people in the BDSM community.
And the other reason that we wanted to make it is, well, in my clinical experience, for example, I've found that there is a lot that vanilla people, quote unquote, have to learn from BDSM sex. A lot of times people, particularly people in long-term relationships, the sex can get very routine, a little bit boring, it can become infrequent, it can go away, and that rarely happens to people who are into kinky sex, because for them, sex is always new and adventurous, and they spend time on it, and they focus on it, and they're creative, and they're open. And so I believe, and many of us who practice, who are practicing sex therapists, believe that Everybody has something to learn from the BDSM community and from kinky sex. And in the next video we make, we're going to talk to you more specifically about how you can introduce some of these techniques into your sex life and make things a little bit more fun.
Keep an open mind.
Absolutely. So thanks for watching. We hope you'll like it, and we hope you'll watch the next one.
Thanks.